So my mini project was about evaluating the dependency of Incema, Juncus crassi harvesters on Incema and its contribution to their livelihoods in this Mangaliso Wetland Park. That's just the coverage that I'm going to be, or the points that I'm going to be talking to today. So we all know how phenomenal Mangaliso Wetland Park is, natural and cultural treasures, and how it's internationally recognized for its ecological, economic, cultural significance, which have been one of the local community sources of income through ecotourism and arts and craft. So what happens is, every year, certain sections of the park are open for 2 weeks in May, first 2 weeks of May annually, to allow harvesting of Incema, and this is according to the park's sustainable resource use policy. Mangaliso is one of the few remaining parks or sites in South Africa where Incema can still be harvested due to the park's careful conservation and community-based natural resource harvesting program. What is Incema? Well, as I've said, its scientific name, Juncus crassi. It's a perennial herb that grows to about a height of 1.5 meters and grows in large colonies. It's found in about saline environments, and its leaves are tough, round, spine-tipped, and its sheets are shiny black. It's amongst other rushes and sedges, and is harvested and used for weaving traditional sleeping mats in many rural areas in KZN. What were my aims? My aims, basically, I just wanted to know how dependent the harvesters were on this natural resource. This I did through a questionnaire whereby I covered sections such as demographics, skills of the harvesters, which later I plan on using in the finding of alternative livelihoods. These objectives were addressed through this questionnaire. But over and above everything also was the social objective of the growing commitment to sustainable development and efforts to reduce poverty. So this was my site. It was Cape Vidal Park. So it's basically, I focused on the harvesters that harvest on the boundary of Cape Vidal. As I've said, my study was done through questionnaires, whereby I looked at demographics, skills analysis, harvesting methods, household income from the actual sale of products, and if there were any rules and regulations that these ladies or harvesters had to adhere to. These were the preliminary results, as my study is not yet complete. Many of these harvesters, as I've said, are female. We have about 97% of these harvesters being females, and only rarely found males harvesting these, which in those cases was usually someone who's harvesting for their mother who's too old and cannot actually harvest for themselves. 105 harvesters were interviewed, and usually along the boundary of Cape Vidal you get about 500 ladies that are harvesting Incema, of which we sampled 105 of. There was about a 93% unemployment rate, other than going to harvest for Incema from those ladies, and the respondents' ages were between 35 and 80. 91% of them were between those ages. So we can clearly see that there weren't enough young people, or we didn't see much youth that were harvesting Incema. Most of the skills that actually came out, or the main ones, was handicraft, agricultural skills, and selling of Incema. There wasn't really much of formal education or tertiary education from these ladies. So that was actually one of the mornings where they gather outside Cape Vidal. Just one thing. So these ladies are from all around KZN, and for those 2 weeks of May actually travel to Cape Vidal, and they camp along the sides of the road in like residents' households, and they construct these little mini tents to actually stay there over the 2 weeks and actually harvest the Incema. Transportation, because it's a bit of a distance from where they're actually staying, which is right outside the park, to actually where they're allowed to harvest. So it's about 15 rand every morning there and back to the harvesting areas, and that there is their harvesting tools, the sickle. That's one of the ladies that was actually harvesting. So yeah, some of these results. Average household numbers that we found was about 10 individuals per household. The leading livelihood options was your social grants, child and disability grants, as well as food gardens were what these ladies were mostly dependent on. That's just one of the pictures from one of the households they were camping at. And you can see the bundles of Incema right there behind them. In terms of rules and regulations, there's not much rules and regulations. It's just that these ladies say that they're told that they must not litter, obviously, inside or around the park. And obviously, they must be guarded at all times because they're actually wild animals. And they also specify times at which they're allowed to harvest, which is morning up until 3 in the afternoon. And in terms of how much you can harvest, it's basically as much as you can carry. So how much they actually make from the bundles. Bundles are sold at 50 Rand each bundle. So during this period, you actually get people that actually harvest and sell to other handicraft people that are actually there to also harvest. So it's like a little mini 2-week society whereby everyone is harvesting and kind of selling to each other. A reed mat is sold at 100 Rand to 120 Rand. And the amount of Incema each lady collects can produce to about 100 mats. So per year, since they harvest at that one go and use the rest of the year to be actually producing the reed mats, they can make up to plus minus 10,000. In conclusion, it's very short. We still see great socioeconomic challenges. Your unemployment, increasing population, disease, obviously all of that contributes to the pressures that we have on our natural resources. The second step to my project is the facilitation of alternative livelihoods, and I plan on using participatory rural appraisal methods to actually find out how I can further, better the lives of these women, to actually find out what other alternative livelihoods they feel that, could better their lives. There's a definite need for arts and craft markets. More of those could actually help, especially with the tourism and where the actual harvesting is situated. So there's a definite need for that, because you find that they'll take their products home or they'll even take their raw material home to go produce products. However, sale is sometimes through word of mouth within whatever area the lady's from. Environmental education. Now, one of the most interesting things that came up for me was when we asked the ladies what conservation methods do they see suitable to actually preserve the Incema or to better the situation of, they're very happy with the fact that it's open at a certain time because they understand the pressures. However, they recommended that why isn't burning used as a management tool to actually, clear out the older Incema that usually just lies on top and actually prevents the new growth or the regrowth of the new Incema. So I asked a couple of our specialists, and they all had mixed ideas about using fire as management. So I don't know, I can pose that question to you if you think that might be a good idea or not. Incema is a definite contributor. That's what I found through my research, that it definitely contributes to, it is a contributor, it's as important as the main livelihood resources such as your social grants or your food gardens, seeing as how much these ladies are also able to make from this. However, there is a strong possibility also for the exploration of other livelihood options to ensure the sustainability of Incema. Yeah, like I said, we found that many of these ladies are between your 35 and 80 years, so we're not seeing younger people harvesting, which is good in a sense that some of them were at school, but you find cases where people would tell you that no, we don't have children, we don't have young adults because of disease, so you'll find that the old granny would still be harvesting for the sake of their grandkids and all of that. So, and also employment plays a very strong negative factor. Recommendations, like I said, facilitation of livelihoods, definitely with social studies all over, is a new field that we should be going into. Arts and craft markets to display and sell products. And this is just my own ideas, thinking. I don't know how feasible it is. I haven't put it out there yet, but what I also saw was the living conditions. That is the mini built place where they stay, and that's where they actually hang out their Incema after harvesting. So I don't know, maybe through sponsorship or our community conservation unit, we can facilitate some form of, I don't know, tents, but just to make accommodation or living arrangements better for these ladies. And obviously this type of research better helps, or we need more of this type of research to help in policy development, playing a contribution and also decision making. So it's important to also always consider that factor of the social impacts when we go into or developing strategies to manage our resources, our natural resources. Thank you. Oh, by the way, sorry, I'm not finished. One more slide. These are acknowledgements to my wonderful team, Nontlom Ngadi and my supervisor, Joe Padima, and Nomaswazi and Shubin.